Should I here or here?
There.
There. But
Yeah.
how do I have to go?
So just
Okay, cool.
We'll get there.
Okay, let's start, everyone. Okay, welcome to Hacktoberfest at Tech Agoda. It's nice to meet you all. So I'm Buzz, I'm a then developer here, and I will walk you through what is a Hacktoberfest. Okay, anyone knows about Hacktoberfest before? Oh, you already know, right? Cool. So Hacktoberfest is an online event that hosted by GitHub, DigitalOcean, and Twilio. It's a global online event that tries to encourage people to try to interact with the open source, try to make something useful for the community. And everyone is welcome to participate. You don't have to be like a professional coder. Like you have to have experience like 5 or 10 years to contribute to the open source. You can be just a student or just a new starter for coding, and then you can start to go to the open source and start learning something for yourself. And also they try to encourage people that just giving the swag like the t-shirt I'm wearing now. And they also I heard that this year they also have more t-shirt than last year, so it's easier for you to get a new t-shirt. Okay, so how to participate? You have to register the link here. I can show you now. Okay, so this is the link. Oh, okay. So as you can see, when you go here, you can just click Start Hacking here, and then you have to register with your GitHub account so that they can track your pull request, and then they can after the event complete, like at the end of the October, they will ask for your address if you participate open like 5 pull requests and get 6, 5. Okay, okay. So after that, they will ask for your address, and then if they check all the pull requests and they all of them is all green, they will send you the t-shirt and other swag as well. So as you can see, you just reach, and you can, if you register here, I think I can maybe try. Oh, sorry, this is your
That's my account.
Okay.
You can register with me if you like.
Okay, I will register with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when you click here.
Just don't look at my code. It's horrible.
Oh. Okay, and then you click authorize. And do you want to change something?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Submit. And after that, if you go back to the home page again, you can now check your progress by clicking this button. And you can see that how many PR that you already opened, and yeah, like this. You can see your profile here, and then you can see that how many already open and those stuff, something like this. Okay, and go back to what's the line a bit. Okay, and after you register to your to the Hacktober website, you just check for the issue on GitHub. You can check like the level below, like help want, good for issue, no friendly. It's like someone loved the new friendly. Okay, so it's like the author of the project want to like help you indicate that this is the first issue that you can start. Like it's usually maybe like documentation, some like minor change in the code and all that, so you can start learning what is the structure of the project and how do you start working on the open source thing. And after you have complete like let's say 5 PR, you will get the free t-shirt at the end of October. Cool.
Amount of t-shirts are limited, right?
Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah. I think it's much more.
Previous years was
previous year is like 30,000, right? But to this year I think it's 50,000. They say something like that. And also there is some open source that they also give additional swag, extra from the teacher as well. You can just check that. Usually they will put like the tag Hacktoberfest. If there is that, you can just go and then ask for them to get free swag after. Okay, so I think that's it for the introduction. So I think you can today we will have like introduction to the open source and all about how you can start your own contribution to other open source, or if you want to start on your own, what is the first step that you should do. We also talk about license, and also the last thing I will showcase about what are we doing about open source at Agoda here. Okay, thank you.
Hi guys. So we were going to talk about what is open source. So I just wanted to talk about some of the history behind it. Okay.
Microsoft don't know what is open source.
Well, I'll talk about that. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Joel Dickson. I'm one of the development managers. I'm a very active, well, actually probably not the last year, but I am an open source contributor. I've worked heavily on the NUnit framework in .NET. I'm originally from Australia.
And you need to update the slide. It's already not Priceline Group.
I know it's not Priceline Group, but I haven't got a new photo of. I'm waiting for the. It was a good photo, so yeah, I wanted to keep it. So I'll just talk a little bit about this history, mainly because I'm old and I remember a lot of this stuff. I don't remember this far back, but in the 50s and 60s. All software used to be open source, so it used to be bundled with the hardware that you bought, and you would get the compiled code with the hardware, and they would bundle the open source or the source code with it, and customers would fix their own bugs most of the time. In the early 1970s was when the US first passed a law making software copyrightable. Any software that's made in the US before 1974 is actually free, because there wasn't copyright laws for it before then. And then towards the end of the 70s, people started charging for software, and it became pretty standard. But AT&T kept distributing Unix as a free operating system for universities. In the 1980s is when the GNU project was started. And this was really the start of a lot of the open source stuff. And also that they came up with this idea of the open source business model, because a lot of these students that were, talking about free software and open source, a lot of the business community said to them, "You're crazy. Like, how do you make money when you give it away for free?" And so they came up with this concept of the open source business model, where you have services that are around the open source software, and that's how you can monetize open source software. And this is also when we saw things like Emacs, the GCC was released, X Windows, and also the Minix operating system. So in the 90s is where we saw Linux came out. Linux was based on the Minix operating system. MySQL, Apache followed, or the Apache HTTP server, and also the founding of the Apache Software Organization. And also Red Hat popped up in the 90s, and they were one of the first big companies to adopt this open source business model, where they would produce services that surround free software in order to monetize it. So, and that's really when things started to explode. And in the 2000s or the noughties, we saw things like Git come out, Java came out with the OpenJDK, Codeplex, followed by GitHub, Google open sourced Android, and also Microsoft open sourced .NET, which was a huge one for the Microsoft community. So if Microsoft does do open source, we're a bit late in the game though. And this is when, since then, kind of in the last 20 years is when this has really exploded, and people have started applying this open source business model. A good example of this is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is free. You can download it, you can set it up and run it yourself. But you can also pay Google to run Kubernetes for you. And so who do you think does it better? Would you rather do it yourself, or you can go and pay Google to do it? So this is this open source business model that's that's really seen the community explode. So why do open source? Community contribution is one of the big things that's been driving a lot of things to become open source. Since they open sourced .NET in 2014, Microsoft has had more contributions to the framework from people that don't work from Microsoft, people that do. And this is, the community coming around, a central project, contributing to it, helping it out, and growing it. Similar to the way Apache does their project incubation as well. So Apache, they work mostly off donations, is where they get a lot of their money. They will buy things. They bought PhoneGap about 10 years ago and open sourced it so that they could, incubate the project, get community contribution, and grow things. Employment. So it's a good reason to do open source, is to get your name out there and let people know about what you're doing. That's what some people use it for. Ego. This is probably why I do open source, because I want to show people how cool I am. And fun. We all have fun writing code, otherwise we wouldn't be software developers. So how to get involved? There's a great opensource.guide website if you want to get more involved in open source. GitHub, of course, and also the GitHub's also opened up a new lab.github website, which is, it's kind of like, do you guys remember the Clippy from Microsoft Office?
Yeah.
Yes, that little paperclip that followed you around. That's what lab.github looks like. It's got this little character that follows around on GitHub and shows you how to do pull requests. And it's kind of weird that they came out with that after they got bought by Microsoft. But I don't think there was anything involved there. Yeah. So, thank you. Who's next?
I think it's 200.
200?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, you're next 200. Come on down.
I think you're kind of preparing.
This is exactly what we need in open source.
Yeah, can contribute to the project.
Can you put it in a GitHub repo and we'll send you a pull request?
Yeah. Sort of.
Do you want to plug in? We can
yeah.
plug you in if you like. It just means you'll have to connect to the projector as well.
Well, I need to do some demonstrations with the Git stuff. So.
Okay, that's cool. We have the technology.
All
All right.
Which is
So plug in, and then
HDMI.
you'll need to HDMI, and then you'll need to
latest technology.
you'll need to use the Kristen to get yourself up on the projector.
Oh. Okay.
Have you got the
freezes.
media software?
No.
What is it called?
Air Media? Try Air Media.
Media.
Air Media. Yeah, that one.
So how does this thing work?
Well, that just goes to the stream. Hang on.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, hang on. And what's the number? 3073. About business. Just make
Yeah, but
sure
it's not working. No signal.
no signal.
Can you check?
Can you? It's not a setting on your Mac.
All right. I see something changed on my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
good. All right,
Right.
awesome. We're in business.
All right. Cool. Let's do this. So,
It's detect.
to contribute an open source project on GitHub, you must know how to use Git and here I'm going to share how to become a Git pro in 20 minutes, sort of. And you can check out my GitHub account, which is on monitor. So we'll skip those Git basic stuff because I assume that all of you guys have known how to do basic stuff with Git. But if you haven't learned how to use Git command line for basic daily job, you can use this handy command git help every day. Basically, it does something like, all right, is that big enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows you that every day git command, 20 commands or so, tells you how to use Git as an individual developer, or if you work with other people, you need to use something like a fetch, push, pull, remote, something like that. Very basic stuff like how do you start a project? You use Git init and you add your stuff with Git add, and then you commit with Git commit -n and the commit message. And once it's done, you push the branch, sort of. All right. So let's go on. So they asked me to do this presentation because they assume that I'm the Git bro, but actually I'm kind of not really that familiar with every command with Git pro. People think I'm the Git pro because I use command line Gits. You don't. So basically, you don't want to be a mainstream. I mean, being a mainstream is nothing bad. Like you use those GUI tools. This one is called Git Kraken. So when you're doing your job in the office, you open up Git Kraken and watch the beach ball bounces on your screen, and then some updates come out, and then you kind of install the update, and then you're waiting the update, and then you go to YouTube, watch some videos, waiting for it, comes back, and the update is done, and then you do your job. But it doesn't have to be like this. Instead, you can use the git command and get your job done and watch the YouTube videos afterwards. So both gives you job done and YouTube videos, but with the git command, you can watch more YouTube videos, which is nice. You know, sometimes it still relies on the graphic interface because it's cool. It shows you everything that you need, but you don't want to be a mainstream. You want to be a hipster. So you kind of use the graphic interface directly from your command line, which is it might seem a little bit strange to you guys, but I think it's already installed on all of you guys' machines. How do I make this thing bigger? Okay, I think that's big enough. So Git K actually is TK, which is the best cross-platform framework. Shows you the log, the Git log for everything. You can search the commits from here, which is pretty nice. Actually, it fits most of my needs for checking the logs. And there's another tool. Let's say, let's say you want to, let's say you made some changes, and you want to commit your changes. Let's say this is a new file, and I'll create a new file which is called something like this, and maybe let me edit some file. So let's say you see, we made some changes to the repository, but in some cases, there are some files that you want to add for this commit, and some files you just put in there for temporarily. So you don't want to just do git add dot, because that's going to add everything to the stage. So so in this case, there are two things that you can do. You can use git GUI or git CI tool. It's the same. You can use git GUI, and then again, it opens up the very nice, very nice graphic interface for you, just like those just like those that people uses. The only difference is it's quick, it's cross-platform, it makes you look like a hipster. So in this case, I'm going to stage these two changes and type my commits. Nothing here. And then it's done. I can see that in the log. So that's the GUI for hipsters, but now we're out of the graphic interface world. So what do you do if you still want to selectively add your on-track changes to the stage changes, and selectively commit your code? You can use the following two commands: git add -i or git add -p. -p means patch mode. So patch mode is something like when you're doing a quick hotfix, like a patch, you're just changing a version number, but you still have other on-track files that you don't want to add. So so you see, I have some something for later. I have the untracked file, and I have a modified file. So in this case, I only want to add a modified file. So I can use git add p, and it's going to show up the chunks of divs that I made, and it opens up an interactive mode for me to choose whether I should stage the hunk or edit it or just discard it or not doing anything. So here I'm going to press Y, and now you see it's there in the stage files. And there's another file. There's another mode.
Only stage with one file.
One file? Yeah. Because another file is untracked. Git add -p doesn't include the untracked file. So if you want to check the untracked files, you have another mode, which is git add I. So let me make another change to the my package again. Let's say I want to bump the version. Let's say 1 to 2. Okay, and so now I'm going to use the interaction mode. So in this case, it shows up the onstage mode, the stage and onstage files. Like I can do for add onstage, and if you want to, it gives me the ability to check the on-track files, and I can add those files like this one. I can just press 1, and now it's added. So I can check other files. No. Let's say 1. Okay. And say I want to unstage nothing. Okay. So I want to patch this one in, and then here, there's my. I can also use the patch mode inside of the interaction mode. So I can add this hunk, the version change that I just added to the stage files. So now I'm done. I just quit. Bye. And if you're doing some, let's say you're doing some open source, collaborating with others, now the next thing you should do is git commit, and I bumped version, and you push your stuff to the remote. All right, let's move on to the next. We still have like 10 minutes or so. I don't know, didn't count. So sometimes, like what I just did, you type something wrong. Like in this case, you want to check all the branches, and but I didn't eat breakfast this morning because I was preparing the presentation, so I typed the wrong word, skip branch, and it doesn't know what I'm doing. So there's a command line tool that some good people out there made, which is called the F word. Yeah. So when you type the F word on the shell, it automatically corrects it guesses the right command that you wanted to put, and correct it for you. So you see, just corrects everything, which is cool. But when you're in the presentation like this one, you don't want to type the F word. So you have a much elegant solution, which is called autocorrect in Git. So let's see how it works. So here I'm going to type git branch. Of course, there's no such command, but it just automatically corrects it for me after 1 second, because I have this config in my number 10 means probably in 1 second. I don't know how do you say 0.1 second in the unit. So we can change this to 100. So it's gonna take longer, and it works with the other arguments, command line parameters. So you can type anything in, and it's gonna correct it for you. So this is nice, actually. Kind of like a good to have in your configs. All right. So next, so you're collaborating with other people in a SAN project, and working with Git is actually all about changing the history. So let's say you are, it happens a lot that you just made a new commit, and then you found out that something's wrong. You want to change something. You want to add a new file. You want to anyway. You want to override. You want to add some files to the previous commit, but you don't want to create a new commit. So in this case, you use git commit amend. Let's say I just bumped the version with 6.0.2, but I don't really want 6.0.2. I actually want 7.0.0, something like that. So I'm going to change the file again, and make it 6.0.0. So now I'm going to add the file, and now I'm going to use git commit amend. So this gets me to updating a previous commit, which I don't create a new commit, but it updates the previous commit. So it's kind of useful because I see sometimes people create clutters like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and something like I'm typing minimalist commit messages to my branch, and when I make a pull request, people see all of those, and it's kind of embarrassing that people doing what you're testing with your own branch, and it's actually minimalist to the project. You don't want those embarrassing comments in the history. So you want to edit the history like that. You can check that it actually just goes into the previous commit. So
does it regenerate the hash when it does that, or will it be?
It changes the hash.
Yeah.
So actually, your old commit is gone. It creates a new commit that contains everything in the old commit, but also contains the new changes that you made. We'll cover that later. That how do you get something back from the Git repository. So you see, we're using git commit amend, and it opens up your text editor. In my case, it's Bin, and sometimes you don't really it's a hiccup. You don't really want to change the commit message. You just want it to be done. And so in this case, you can use git commit amend no edit. Let me just add another file. I say I'll just add that file on tract. No. Oh yeah, I just added. Okay. So git commit amend no edit. So in this case, it doesn't open up the text editor, and it just add into your last commit simply. You can use the same trick for git merge. Sometimes you merge other people's branch to your own branch, and you don't actually want to edit the merge message. I've seen nobody doing that. So in this case, you can just use git merge no edit, which is quick. Does the job. All right. So like I said, Git is all about editing the history. So is there anybody here using Git rebase every day and find it satisfying, good, feeling good about Git rebase? Actually, no. Okay.
So do you guys use Git rebase on mobile?
Yeah. I mean, at least I do.
Yeah.
So
Every day.
Actually, yes, every day. Because there are new stuff coming out every day when you're working with others. So
you rebase on your own branch.
Yeah.
But what about when you merge the master?
When you merge master, you just use GitHub to merge the pull request, which we still use the normal merge. We don't use rebase merge or squash merge. Actually, maybe we should use squash merge, but
yeah, we've switched to using squash merge. It makes the history look a lot cleaner.
Yeah, yeah, it's much better because people make those clutters on minimalist commits in their own branch. So here I'm going to tell you how to remove those stuff out of your branch. So there are actually two ways you can do it. First way is hold on, let me see if I can. All right, let's say I'm on 5.0 right now. No. Oh, okay. And actually, I'll create a new branch to rebase demo. Actually, let's not do that. Let's go back. Let's just check the git logs. I just made 2 commits from version 6.0. So actually, I want to make it a single one, like I'm doing stuff like I'm trying stuff in my own working branch, but in the end, it's only one feature or one commit that is only meaningful. So I don't want to see people seeing me editing the test files and trying stuff in my own commits. So in this case, you can use git rebase, interactive mode, and let's say I want to rebase on the previous 2 commits. So in this case, it opens up the logs again for your previous 2 commits, and there are a lot of stuff to pick here. Like you can just pick the commit, which actually does nothing, or you can use squash. Normally, I use fix-up. Fix-up means you kind of like it merges the commit to the previous one. So let's say I use reward for this one, and I'm going to merge the latest commit to the first one. So here, and it's going to tell me I can edit the commit message for my first commit. So here I'm going to type something more meaningful, like new version 7.0. And then it's done. It's merged my second commit to the first one. So we can check the logs. You see there's only one commit right now, which contains all the file changes that I made. That's one way to use rebase. Another way to use rebase is it's more like it's more frequently that you will use rebase for. For example, that let's say okay, I know how to do this. Sorry, what?
Yeah. What's the benefit of the git rebase interactive for squashing commit if compared with that soft base?
Well, rebase is basically different than squash. When
basically yes, but for this example where you just squash 2 commits to one,
yeah,
does it have some additional benefits if we will do git reset soft and do commit?
Yes, well, yes, you can do that as well. That's what I was going to say. You can do git reset as well. Yes, you can do that as well. Or you can use whatever, git merge squash, something like that. I'm going to show you something like, let's say 4. All right. No. Art. So now it says I'm behind the origin master because somebody updated the master branch on the remote, and you know I'm still on the old master. So normally you do git pull, that works, but sometimes you don't want to do that because you know when you do git pull, it actually merges the latest branch to your branch, and it creates a merge commit, and it contains the old branch. Well, if you have done this, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's like let's say I'm creating some new stuff. So you just say 1.js. And now I'm doing git pull. It's going to create a merge commit, which Or it fails. Let's try again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna make your you kind of like it's going to create a new merge commit, and it makes your branch looks a little bit something like you don't want this. You don't want your you don't want your new thing like based on the master. Like it doesn't make sense. So a very nice thing to have is you can instead of just git pull, you can use git pull rebase, and instead of creating the merge commit, it makes the commit that you made on your branch it rebase on the latest commit on the upstream, on the remote or origin. And you can use the centric for your own branch. Let's say you're on your own branch and it's lost the track to the origin master, and maybe somebody fixed a bug, changed something on master, and you're on your own branch. You want to track the latest master branch, but you don't want to create a merge commit on your own branch. So in this case, you can do something like let's go back again. Hard, say has3, and now we're on the new branch. So now I'm creating something new. Touch one JS git that. So you can see that your branch is the latest master branch is now updated. You're behind, and you're still on your own branch. You don't want to change the branch, and you want to include the latest update on the origin master branch to your own branch. So in this case, you can do git fetch to fetch the latest master from the origin, and then you do git rebase origin master. So now we're making our commit on top of the origin master, the latest branch, and we're not creating a new merge commit, and our old master branch on our local still unchanged. So that's pretty good. All right. We didn't cover what to do with git reset hard and git reset soft. Just like the guy just said, that we can reset our commit status to the older part. We're probably running out of time here, so I'll skip that part. So so we just covered how you can change the history with those commands, git rebase, git reset, but it changes the history, so so the comments in your branch is gone. And sometimes I see people do this, like you want to do some crazy stuff in your project, in your Git repository. So so sometimes I see people that I'll just open the project in the Finder, and I'm going to I make a zip file from my folder, and then I'll do some crazy stuff. And if it failed, I'll delete my project and unzip the zip file to get the backup restored. So no, stop, don't do it. You can use git reflog. Let's say I'm not satisfied with everything that I just did with the reset or rebase. I can use git reflog, and it's going to show up everything, including the history that I just made. Let's say, for example, that I don't want to rebase, I want to go back. the previous state. So what do? I go back to the state that I check out that I commit a new commit here. So I can just do git reset part the RFID. So now I'm back. It's still the new commit on top of the local master branch. So I talked a lot, but if there's only one command that you want to remember today, I believe it's this one. It's very important. You want to use it. Check out F. All right. It kind of like sometimes you have some changes in your own branch, and you want to go back, and it tells you cannot do it because you have some on-state changes. You can use git stash, but if you're just not happy with what you've done and you want to forget about it, you can just use git checkout F.
Just remove this change. No, it's forced yet, but it's drop these changes or remove them.
It drops, but the on-track files are still there. But the modified changes are just removed. Rebase, we just talked about it. Okay. Here comes this small boy. So if you have noticed that I actually just use it several times in the demonstration, what it does is actually very, very simple. You see, we are in the new branch right now, but sometimes people tell you, hey, can you check out why the test is failing on master, and you check out master branch because you want to check why the test is failing on the master branch for people, and then you're done with it, and then you want to go back. So what do you do right now? You can type your own branch in, which sometimes can be long because it contains your geo ID and stuff. But actually, you don't need to do that. You just need to do git checkout and this small bar, and it goes back. It literally means back to the previous branch. And you can use this small bar actually everywhere. It's not just checkout. You can use it on reset as well. Let's say I want to, I don't want anything that I just did with my commit, which are those. And I want to reset to master, which is the last branch that I just checked out to. You can just say git reset, and this, wait, does it work? No, actually, no, okay. But I think it works on rebase, actually. Yeah, it works. So I can say drop. All right. So now, all right, let's wait 10 seconds. So now my commit is gone. It doesn't work on reset, but it works on rebase. And I use it a lot. So you see now my commit is gone. And do you know how to get it back? What? No, I'm disappointed. Reflog, yes. Okay, cool. So now, yeah, we can move on. And here's the small bars grandma, which is called CD dash, because it's not on Git. You can use it on CD as well. Like I want to go back to the previous directory. I can use CD minus. So let's say I want to go to my home folder. Let's say downloads to check out some videos that I downloaded, and I wanted to go back. I can just say CD minus, and it goes back. All right. Last thing. This is actually very good. So sometimes things like this happen. You are working on the open source project on your own, and you don't have a CI running the test. and somehow you broke the test in the past, and you just found out that you broke the test by running the test command on your branch, and but you don't know what broke the test. So what you could do is to debug the test and find out what was broken. But there's a very good tool which helps you to find the bug, which is called Git bisect. So here's how it works. You can tell it that because you broke the test, you can tell it where the test is broken, and you can tell where the test is actually running fine. So by doing so, Git will find the commit that actually broke the test for you by using a binary search. So you see there can be, let's say, we have a lot of commits here, and it can be like something between 6.0 to 5.0, one of those commit that broke the test. So we can use the tool to say that 6.0 is broken, but 5.0 is running fine. So I'm going to use Git bisect to find the commit, the first commit that broke the test for me. I think I actually have something that demonstrates the feature. All right, let's say, okay, this one. Okay, this one is good. So now I'm going to run the test. So I think it's not going to work because I made it so. If it works, then I'm disappointed. All right. Actually. What's going on? All right. Don't worry. We can find where's the test broken again. Okay, here. I think it's this one. So let's just pretend that this is our master branch, and now the test is broken. Should be. Oh yeah, it's broken. Cool. Finally. So what we can do right now is to go back to look at to say we go all the way back to where that you were pretty sure the test is running fine. Let's say the previous version that you tagged, because you tested everything before you release a new version. In this case, I have already made one, which is called good. And the test should be good. Yeah, it's good. So I want to find out that between my master branch and this one, which is tag good, which commit actually broke the test. So so to start, you use git bisect. Start, yeah. And you tell git bisect that which one is having a problem. In this case, our current head. So you can tell bad the branch name the commit ref ID, or you can just say git bisect bad for the current.
What start? It's a tag or just
What?
You used the word start in git bisect. Start, it's a name of tag or?
No, it just
Start.
means
Start just tells it to start. Start the action.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one is bad, and we go back to the good one. Actually, no. We tell git bisect that the good one is this one. We can use the commit ID. Okay, so now it's going to check out a commit in the middle of between good and bad. So it's using binary search. So you're pretty sure that in the end you'll find it will the git bisect will find the commit that breaks the test for you in the minimum steps. So we can run the test again, and all right, this time it passes, so we can tell that this one is good, and we run the test again because it git bisect checks out another branch for it, checks out another commit for us. So this one is actually failed, so we just tell it git bisect backed. And now you see, now the tool has found the bad commit for us. So it tells it that this one is the bad commit. Now we can fix some bugs and just say git bisect reset to go back to our original branch. Or if you feel like you have 10 commits in the middle, and running the test actually takes 30 minutes, which is the actual time for mobile tests in Agoda. You don't want to wait in front of your laptop to wait all those tests running. So you can actually tell git bisect to do the job for you, which is called git bisect run. So we're going to do the whole thing again, and this time we don't run the test by ourselves, but we tell we still have to tell it where to find, like what is the good one, what is the bad one. Like this one should be the bad one, but we can tell it to run the bad, but we can tell it to run the test between those commits in between the good and bad commits for us automatically. So I was running npm test. So in this case, my test command would be npm test. So now it's going to go through all these commits for me and find the failed, find the first bad commit for me, which it just done, this one. So it doesn't seem to be like it just happened. Like it's not too dramatic, but it's really a useful tool. Like because
does it look for a non-zero exit code from the command line?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So if you have some command that doesn't exit for one or something which is not zero, that you have to make 0 into 1 by the shell commands.
Right.
But normally those command line test tools exit with code 1 or something which is not 0.
But what happens if there is a flaky test?
Luck test, then you're out of luck. Well, yeah, but you can still set some conditions, like run the test a few times, write the shells by yourself. But this one, finds the test that actually breaks all the time very quickly. So now we're already far past 20 minutes, sorry. But there's still a lot to learn. But once you know how to use all that, like checkout, small bar, or git reflog, then you're basically good. Actually, you don't really need to do all that. You just need to commit, do your daily job without those GUI tools that takes 30 minutes to open. Then just show people that you can do stuff on with the commands, and you're basically looking like a Git pro, although it's not true like me. But I think that already does the job. So and if there's anything that you still don't know, like how do I check out a file from another branch and put it on my branch right now, you can Google those stuff online, and it's gonna tell you how to do it. But maybe you don't want to let Google answer for you, because if Google finds it's better than you, then it's gonna replace your job and it's gonna destroy the earth. So you want to be a man or a person, whatever you call it. Use man sometimes. Use Git help to find out the answers by yourself. Don't rely on Google all the time. And since we're in the share session here, you can also ask questions to me. I'm your man, so ask anything you want. What? No? Really? Okay. Then, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Almost that.
Next, Ilya, and after that we will have a break, short break. Yes, we are.
Can I get plugged in?
Yep.
Thank you.
You'll have to use the media to connect up there.
Do we need to connect to that?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Usually pre-installed.
It should be.
It's called media. No, yeah, AIR.
Okay, nice. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Ilya. I work here as a senior Android developer at Agoda. And I have a question for you guys. How many of you people do actually have like this? Okay. So how many people of you actually do have any open source project maintaining, running, developing, contributing? Raise your hands. So we've got plenty of people, but a lot of people do not do that. So right now we're going to have a little bit of live session of how to actually do that on GitHub, how to set up your repository, how to make your first commit, how to actually make your repository public, and then we'll talk a little bit of how to actually get into this stuff with everything that you have in your skill set. So right now we're at GitHub homepage, and create a new repository I think is pretty easy. So what you have to do is just click new repository button, boom, there you go, magic. Okay, so let's, what you need to do is make up a repository name, right? So, yeah, this one is actually one of the hardest part of the open source development. Finding a good name for your library, finding a good name for your project is toughest task. So, let's make a repository with the library that will just have some extension functions for the string type. So as a Kotlin developer, I love to do extension functions. So let's try to do like string ktx. Okay. So description, like string extensions for Kotlin. So the visibility of your repository. I would recommend to have it private until you actually like do something that is working. But we're not professionals here, so let's do it public as it is. And this is very important thing here. Initialize this repository with the README. So README for GitHub is actually like a face of your project. It's like an index of your project. So README is very important. I suggest you just add it right away when you start. So here we are adding gitignore. Do you know, guys, what is gitignore? So basically gitignore is a file that configures what files Git ignores when you automatically, yes, basically. So you basically you tell Git what to ignore when you add everything. So when you use git add dot, it will actually read the gitignore file, see that you have some files maxed out, and it will not include them. And let's add a license. So let's do with the default Apache license 2.0 and create a repository.
You'll have separate talk about license later.
Yeah, we're gonna have a talk about the licensing later. So for now, Apache 2.0 is enough. Don't bother with it right now. So what do we see here?
Now you have open source library.
Yes, now we have an open source project. Let's clap. Okay, so what do we have here already? Now we have a license file, we have a gitignore and readme.md. So, and basically this is the readme.md. And MD, for some guys of you who might not know that, this is the markdown. So it's some kind of HTML or like CSS styling of your text. So now we have a page for our open source project. What we want to do? We want to actually like to contribute something, right? To upload files. So let's clone the repository first. So I have a link here. When I click clone or download, I just copy the link to the repository. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open my terminal. Where's my terminal? Okay, here it is. So I'm gonna go to the development, and now I'm gonna, so that you may see. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clone this repository that I just created. So I copied the link to repository, I set my folder where I want to have it, and now I'm doing git clone. Got clone. Git clone, and I'm cloning. Okay, nice. Now I have the repository set it up at a specific folder on my file on my drive. Now let's do some coding. Let's write some function, right? The extension function, what we are trying to do. So as I'm an Android developer, I'm gonna use the IntelliJ, I'm gonna use Kotlin. So if you don't know this language, it's not a problem, it's pretty easy, it's straightforward. So I'm creating a new project here. And it'll be a Kotlin project, it'll be Kotlin JVM. That will be called string ktx. Now I'm setting the folder that I already checked out, cloned from the GitHub. Where it is? Okay, here it is. So I'm checking out here, and just like click finish, and here we go. So now we have set it up the environment for the development. If you have any other language, if you do JavaScript, it doesn't matter. You just like open up this folder and go with it, do anything you want. So let's add some source files here. Project. And let's add the Kotlin file. So like it'll be like string extensions. Okay, so I'm more of a hipster guy, so I like the user interface of the Git, and I don't like actually using a lot of terminal. So the studio, the IntelliJ IDE actually asks me if I want to add my files automatically. I will say yes, of course. And now let's do some coding. So I'm defining like, for example, let's define package, like com Agoda OSS test. And now I'm defining an extension function string that, for example, no spaces. So I want the function that will replace the spaces for me. So I will do this, replace, and I'll replace like that. Okay. So now I have an open source library that actually do some useful stuff. Oh, it's an example. It's an example. Okay, so now let's do some terminal. Even if I don't like it, I still have to use it sometimes. So let's do git commit. Let's enter message first. Commit. Okay. Now we're ready to push. So we're using git push. Okay. Good. Nice. So going back to GitHub, refresh the page. And what do we see here? Wow. We have our empty file. How so? I forgot to git add, I think. Yeah, I did. So that's why I don't like the command line interface. Okay, so second commit. Let's go.
Why don't you use the git plugin for the IDE?
Well, it's integrated. So I'm just showing off that that is not the only option here. And I'm not worse than 200 for not using the CLI.
Watch YouTube videos.
Okay, nice. So now we're pushing. And done. Nice. So going back, refreshing. Now we have the actual library that do stuff. So, okay, we have some code that is working, but that is basically like the first step in setting up your actual open source project. What you also have to do is to document it. That is the one of the base steps for making your good library is documentation. Because using an open source project that has no documentation, you're just not gonna use it. Because if you face some issue, you will spend like weeks or months trying to figure out what is happening. And if you have docs, if you have a description of what's going on, what every function does, you are more in an elevated way. So documentation can be done like in a different approaches. So the basic approach, you just post everything about your library in your README. So we can go back to our readme.md and actually edit it. So IntelliJ IDEA has a not built-in, but accessible plugin called the Markdown Navigator, which actually shows the changes that I made to MD file as how it will look on the GitHub page. So here I'm going to call functions, and like I'm gonna insert a source code, or no, let's put some description. For now, this library has why I'm capsing. For now, this library has only one useful function. Okay, now I'm going to insert the source code, and it'll be a string, no spaces. Removes spaces from strings. Okay, good. So now I'm gonna use the user interface. Okay, third commit. Third commit. Okay, nice. Committed, pushed, done. Wow. Now we have some useful info on the first page of our project on the GitHub. Pretty neat, isn't it? So this is the one of the approach of how can we actually document the stuff. And the other one is the default, the language possibilities. For example, if you're using Java or Kotlin, there's a Java doc, Docker. If you're using JS, I don't know about JS anything. But I think there are some tools for documenting your stuff. That is very important. The third step, after you actually created a repository. So you had the idea. So I'm gonna solve some problem. I'm gonna write a library that will have thousands of people out there who have the same problem as me. So you set it up, the repository, you wrote the library. You have the documentation, you have the front page, set it up. Great, what next? So next is the actual distribution. So for Kotlin, for Java, there is a place called the JCenter. That is a very common stuff. It's a Maven repository where you can actually deploy your projects. Basically, you compile them in jar and deploy it, and now everyone will have access to it. For JavaScript, it's npm, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, you'll have to think about distribution beforehand. So how are you going to distribute your library? In our case, we have a couple of open source projects. One of them is actually an Android library. We distribute it through the JCenter. Okay, so now you have set it up, your code, your documentation. You actually deployed your library. Now, how to get people know about the library? There are a couple of ways. So the most common way is the Medium, if you know about this. So Medium is a website of all kind of articles, but there are a lot of communities revolved around software engineering, around Android, around other technologies. And there are specific communities that has dedicated websites that actually aggregate this information, these articles, these stories about your stuff. So what I suggest when you actually have your V1 version of your library, go out, make an article on Medium. For example, when we released our first open source library in an Android team, I made a post on a Medium. I made an article, and I believe after 2-3 months of the publication, it got noticed by the pro Android dev community, which is actually a huge group of readers on the Medium, and they reposted the message. And after that, the stars on GitHub start raising like crazy. Now, we're not for stars here, but it's still pleasant. Okay, so that is basically most of the stuff that you will encounter when developing your open source project, like idea, implementation, documentation, distribution, and promotion. Promotion has a lot of more sources. I'm just provided one good example that is commonly used. You can use it via Twitter, actually. For example, let's make a release. So when you are on a GitHub, you actually can make a release. What release means from the GitHub perspective? Basically, it takes your current commit or the commit you actually specified and creates a sub-branch and copy from your first commit to the commit that you specified and says that, okay, this is the source code for your specific release. So we can go here and say that create a new release. Nice. Tag version, let's say 1.0, release title, first release. And let's describe a release like very useful first function. And publish release. What it will do, it will actually take the current commit and use it as the base for the tag. Okay, now we're publishing. Nice. So, and after that, it actually like takes your source code to the point of where you took the release from, and actually like saves it as the source code in a zip. So even if you do anything crazy in your branch in the long distant future, the version that you had at that point of time will be available on GitHub for anyone. That is a good thing to have. So, actually, after you created a release, you can do like Twitter out that, hey guys, I released a new version on GitHub, go check it out, download sources, contribute. You can, if you are Android or Kotlin or Java developer, you can do some stuff like trying to post into the Kotlin Weekly or the Android Weekly. It's a newsletter that is actually like has tons of subscribers. So it's like 30,000 developers subscribe to this newsletter. So if your article gets there, like your library will definitely get popular. What else to say here? Continuous integration. That's another part. So CI is very important, not only in the production companies, but also for the open source. Because you still have to guarantee that your stuff works, even if you merge pull requests like from people that you don't know. That is even more dangerous to merge from people on GitHub than from your colleagues on the develop branch. Because if you have, like, for example, a library that takes 10,000 lines of code, 20,000 lines of code, and some random guy just creates a pull request, you go through it and see, okay, maybe it's fine feature that he tries to add. Okay, I'll merge it. If you don't have CI in your open source project, you will have to manually like check out his branch, run tests, see that everything actually is fine, and then merge. That will guarantee that, okay, this feature is safe if you don't have CI. But if you don't have CI and you don't do manual testing, your library is gonna be very unstable. So for GitHub, there is a stuff called Circle CI that is actually free, easy to use, easy to set up, easy to integrate. We have a person that have like very good experience integrating with Circle CI here. And that's pretty much it. So setting up the repository is not so hard. Writing code is not so hard. Like all these things separated from each other is not so hard. But actually combining them and maintaining and creating a project that makes a difference in the developer world is actually huge stuff. So come on, guys, let's give it up. Let's do this. And now I have 2 o'clock on the time. So yes, thank you for listening. And let's have a lunch. Let's have a networking, right?
How long time it will take you to finish the presentation?
I finished.
Okay. Set up it. Okay, cool.
No, setting up CI will take a lot of time. I'm sure you guys are very intelligent. You can go through the documentation of it.
Okay, cool. So let's have like a 10 minutes, like 15 minutes. You can grab a pizza and drink, and then we'll continue.